Okay, it wouldn't let me take the insulin out of the old pod, which is something I'll have to figure out later, but I got some into this new pod. You can see it's kind of bubbly, so I've been trying to get the bubbles out. But basically that's it. You just fill the syringe, and then there's a hole right here that I put this into, and that's how I fill the pod with insulin. Come on. You'll hear it beep.
That was a good time.
Okay, so once I fill it with insulin, now I have to move it so that it's with my PDA or my PDM right here, so that they actually touch. And it gives me instructions. After filling pod, listen for 2 beeps, then press next. Okay, so I'm listened for that. Now it's going to prime the pump. What that means is going to start moving the insulin into the tube inside here that leads into the cannula that goes into my arm, so that when I start, the bolus delivery will be actual insulin and it won't be injecting air from that line, and I'll get the exact dosage that I'm looking for. So it's priming right now. You can see it on the screen. It says priming. This is the needle cap. So under this white piece right here is the needle, is the opening where the needle will inject into my arm and insert that cannula into my, probably my arm fat. I can put it in a number of places on my body. I can put it on the back of my arms. I can put it on the outside of my thigh. I can put it on my belly. I can put it on my back right at the top of my butt cheek, or up more around my love handles towards the kind of the side. I'm not gonna put it on my back because it's hard to see and I wouldn't know if the adhesive stuck appropriately and I couldn't check it. So I'm probably gonna put it on the back of my arm again. This is where, again, that's where I had it last time. So since this is where the needle was last time, I'm gonna put it a little lower down and put the needle part facing this way so that I can kind of rotate it. You don't wanna use the same injection site over and over. You build up scar tissue and then you don't have as good of absorption. And obviously the point of using a pump isn't to use more insulin, it's to use less. So, okay, it's pumped. It says prepare infusion site, which I'll do with an alcohol prep pad. And I prefer my right side for some reason. It doesn't hurt as much as my left side. So that's what I'm gonna do. I clean a big area because I know exactly where I intend to put it, but since this isn't a part of my body I have eyes on very easily, I don't know if I'm gonna hit that exactly. So if I clean a bigger area,
Better safe than sorry.
I'm definitely gonna get where I'm gonna put this. And then while I do this, it tells me to tear off this tab. The first time I had to do this, it took me like 5 minutes because I didn't know the trick is that you keep a finger here and then you just pull that up. So now this is ready. It tells me to check and see if there's any cannula or any needle sticking out here, and there's not. So this one is good to go. The good thing to know is that if I had pulled this out and I pulled that needle guard off and the cannula was sticking out, or there was anything wrong with that needle, I would discard it, but the company would give me a new pod to replace it for free, which is good. So now it tells me to take off the backing, which is a little tricky. You have to kind of hold the pod and then kind of peel the backing off like that. Again, the needle's here and I want it facing more towards my elbow this time. So then it tells me to check, make sure that it's not wet or dirty or there's nothing wrong with the adhesive. So I'm gonna go ahead and put it on. Probably right about here. So then you have to run over the adhesive a couple times with your fingers. It is a heat sensitive adhesive. So the more heat you put on it with your hands, the better it is. Although I think the one on my stomach didn't stick really well, even though I put a lot of pressure and heat on it. So Charlotte has something for her catheter dressing called border tape, and it's sticky as shit. So we figured out if you put a piece of border tape even over the pod, it doesn't interfere with the communication between the PDM and the pod, so I did that last time. Okay, so I stick it on, it says hit next, so I hit next, and when I hit start, it'll be a couple seconds, and then the needle will inject into my arm. So here we go. It's clicking. And it just went. And it doesn't hurt hardly at all. My finger sticks to to check my blood sugar are way worse, way worse. Okay, so now my pod is active and my basal insulin program is on and ready to go. And what that means is across the span of a day, it will give me 24 units of insulin. I just changed that down because I've had 3 days of really, really crazy low blood sugar. So I'm clearly giving myself too much insulin. So the program now is for every hour, it gives me 1 unit of insulin spread out across that entire hour. So it's pretty much continually giving me a little insulin. And for non-diabetic people, well, non-type 1s. So type 2 is a misuse sort of diabetes. It means that your cells aren't absorbing the sugar that you're putting into your body. So you always have a high blood sugar, which is the same as for type 1s, right? But for type 1, it's the autoimmune type of diabetes, which means that my immune system has destroyed what are called beta cells in your pancreas, and those are the insulin secreting cells that I don't have anymore. So what my pump does is it does what your pancreas normally would do, in that it gives me a baseline amount of insulin in my system at all times. And so the goal is to prevent spikes in insulin, or spikes in blood sugar, which is like after you eat, your blood sugar naturally spikes. Most people who aren't diabetic wouldn't go much over 120. Mine has in the past gotten as high as 500. And that isn't because I was eating huge amounts of carbohydrates or anything. It's just because my pancreas doesn't work and I wasn't secreting any insulin at all. So that's basically the process of changing my pump. It's fairly easy.
It sings sometimes.
Oh, sometimes it beeps. When it gets close, like it has an expiration date. They all expire 3 days after you activate them. So when it gets close to my expiration time, it'll start beeping. If I get under 50 units of insulin available in the pump, it'll beep at me. One time it did that at about like 3 o'clock in the morning, and it woke both me and Charlotte up, which is kind of nice to know that it'll do that. The only thing that it doesn't do that a continuous glucose monitor would do, and maybe eventually my insurance will cover that, is it doesn't monitor my blood sugar constantly. I have to, so this also works as a glucometer, which is why I needed these special strips. I'll go ahead and check my blood sugar and you guys can see exactly what that's like. So you take out a test strip and they look like this. So the skinnier end is with the 2 dots on the outsides. That's the end that I put the blood in. This is the end that goes in the meter. You can see on the back there's an activation area. So that goes into the bottom of my PDM with the butterfly facing up, and it will automatically turn my PDM on. So I hit confirm. I didn't hit yes after this, so yes, I know that it's confirmed, blah, blah, blah. Okay, it tells me it needs to match this control number on the bottle of strips, so it does, and now it's telling me to go ahead and put some blood on it. The cats are always very curious about this part. So I hit myself with the lancet, get some blood on there, put it on the side of the strip. It's gonna check, and then pretty soon it'll tell me my blood sugar number.
Hopefully good.
Okay, so right now it's stupid low.
As
It's
always,
56.
completely.
So what I'm gonna do now is suspend my insulin because I'm already low. I don't wanna give myself any more. But that's checking blood sugar, and then I can take this strip out once I get that number and throw it away. This also has the ability for me to program a temporary basal amount, so I can either turn it completely off, or if my blood sugar was well within range, like say I hit 95, 96, I'm well within range, so what I can do then is set it so that instead of giving me 1 unit across the next hour, it could give me half a unit. So I still have some background insulin in there, which will prevent me from going sky high, but it's not giving me so much that this is gonna crash out. This is low. I should actually be feeling this, but I'm not. I have hypoglycemic unawareness. So until I get down to like when was I the other day, 45?
Yep.
I hit 45 and was starting to feel it. And when I get really, really low like that, all that I see is kind of sparkly things in front of my eyes, and I get really tired. I think Fallon, either one of the kids has told me that I kind of act a little drunk or a little high.
Not drunk, high.
I act a little high then. So in this case, I don't need any more insulin, right? So I'm gonna go, and it even tells me, treat your low blood glucose. Okay, so I'm gonna probably pop some candy. I'm I'm gonna do I have this menu here where it has everything I can do with this pump. So I'm probably gonna go ahead and put a temporary basal in there so that I'm not giving myself too much insulin. Wait for it to kick back up a little and then unsuspend it. But you guys don't have to watch through all that. Anyway, just thought you guys might want to see it for those of you who are curious. And if you're not, you can certainly feel free to skip away. But thanks to everybody for watching. Good night.